Two.
Welcome to New England Lacrosse Journal's Chasing the Goal podcast, your destination for all things lacrosse. I'm your host, Kyle Devitt. Alongside me, across the table, Mr. Owen Hart. How we doing, man?
It's good. It's been about a month since we've been here because last time we were in Zoom via the storm, and now it's about 40 miles per hour winds, and I'm getting nervous about being on the field in a couple weeks. I'm not looking forward to that.
No,
Still pretty cold.
Do you shovel or what do you do?
Yeah, but I will say I shoveled my side of the driveway, and then my dad didn't move his car, and then there was just a block of ice on our driveway for about a month. And I bet, did you see the video of them like unfreezing a turf on whatever college field that was?
Yes, I did. That's why I asked.
Yeah, that was fun. I'm glad I don't have to do anything like that.
Yeah, we're still looking for our turf scrimmage. We have like the teams. We do not have a field. So that's fun.
New Hampshire problems.
Yeah, I mean, New England problems, right? Like,
Fair.
if you don't have turf, you're not playing right now,
No.
right? Speaking of which, we should talk about our guest, managing editor of New England Lacrosse Journal, Mike Zhe.
Good to be here, guys. Look forward to this every year. I apologize for my voice. I've been screaming at writers all week.
Not me.
We'll give it the best effort and give you a good show.
And if Mike's here, that means it's the ISL show. So we are going to kick it off. Usually we do this, talk about the teams that are maybe not going to finish at the top. We kind of go up and down from up, right? Like we're counting upwards in our preview, and that means we are starting where?
Yeah, I think we can kind of break it into three tiers like we do normally.
Yeah.
And I think we start with maybe the handful of teams that are not looking at ISL titles and probably not places in the championship tournament, but are looking to improve, looking to measure themselves against comparable teams, take wins where they can. And then we would move on to the middle tier where we have a lot more contenders to make that championship tournament and maybe an outside chance to get on a run late in the year and do something. And then at the third tier is the favorites. You know, those loaded programs that you know are going to be good just because of the talent, because of the coaching, and it's the question of which one's going to be there at the end.
Yeah, we have Owen here because, first of all, he's the co-host, but also he's kind of the voice of the outside fan. He's an MIA guy. Yeah. He knows, ISL, though.
Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of kids from my town and playing for those schools.
I was waiting for it. I told you before we started I wasn't going to say it.
I was going to maybe bring it up when we got to a certain school, but I'm going to bring it up off the top. No, yeah, but so that makes me a little adverse to the league. No, yeah, I love it. I'll save my thoughts.
Yeah, it's great. Listen, ISL's great lacrosse. Yep. We love covering it. The coaches are so gracious to both of us, all of us that cover anything about their teams. So we're happy to do it. And where are we beginning, Mike?
I thought we'd take a look at those teams. That would you not include among the favorites, and we're not going to rank 11, 12 through 16. We're going to do them alphabetically, and maybe shine a little spotlight on some things to watch.
Sure.
And let's start with Brooks. This is a team another very young team, going to be considered a little thin compared to some of the powers. A team that did win 2 games at the end of last year against St. Mark's and Rivers, so hoping to build on that momentum.
Yeah.
Got some players. Chris Caiazzo, senior defender, going to St. Lawrence is one guy you could single out. They did lose their goalie, Braden Holt. He's over at Cushing now. He wanted to do a PG year down the road, and that was the best situation for him. So that's what they have. There's some promise on defense. And again, the close wins at the end of the last year, they're going to try and translate that momentum into the new season.
The thing I know about Brooks is I gave a talk at MYL, like a presentation on how to, like, we run our practice at Hopkinton. And so it's a little different. It's not amazing. I wasn't trying to like break a mold or anything. And the Brooks guys were front and center. And I was like, hey guys. And they're like, yeah, hi. Like, what are you doing here? And I was like, yeah, no, I also coach. So we had a really good conversation about ISL, and they're trying. I think Brooks is really pushing to build like younger and get those kids in sooner and kind of develop them a little bit more, which is, that's an approach for a team like this to bring in fresh talent. And, it's all about, at that point, it's all about retention.
Yeah, you look at these players to watch, other key players, juniors, sophomores, some freshmen.
Yeah.
Yep. They have a chance to grow up together.
All right, let's move on to BB&N.
BB&N.
Interesting team. I always think they're interesting. Just because they always have like one guy who's like, this kid's amazing.
Yep.
Like, so good. And this year, I think that's Will Fuller.
Yeah, no question. It's Will Fuller. And just a note on him, a great producer, great lacrosse player. Consistency. Sophomore year, 32 goals, 23 assists.
Yeah.
Junior year, 33 goals, 23 assists.
Yeah. And he's getting doubled.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Like, the thing about ISL that's interesting is the play style of all these different teams, right? Like, it's all about control and consistency in scoring or stopping someone else from scoring. And I think with BB&N, they are dangerous if they get you running, but most people don't run on them. They like to control against them. And then, you kind of just push it down a little bit. And Fuller's going to get his points. You kind of just, you almost are like, all right, Fuller, you're going to get like 3, 4, 5 here. We have to stop everyone else.
Yeah.
Right?
And that'll be the question. Can others step up and take some of that load off and make them a little more diverse when it comes to the scoring?
Yeah, I think one of the guys that I am pretty familiar with is Lucas Morvillo. Saw him play this summer, and I believe down in Florida as well. Pretty skilled midfielder. Like one of those guys that can be a difference maker. You have to pick him up. If you don't pick him up, you're going to be in trouble. We're going to go through a lot of these teams, and I've seen most of these guys play for their club teams, and I really love like spotlighting kids that I think are, maybe we're not writing full articles about them or other people aren't, but I think it's interesting to have these kids, and Morvillo is one of them where he's a junior. I feel like he's in the next line of kids. Mm-hmm. ISL is chock full of this to get recruited. Like, he's being recruited, clearly. He's being recruited. He just hasn't committed yet. And I think that's kind of one of the things that we're watching for with all these teams as we go through them.
Yeah, I mean, you've got your stars. Every team's got 2, 3, 4, 5, 12, whatever. But you also need to build around those stars if you want to have a team and you want to have success on the field.
Right.
So moving on alphabetically, Lawrence, another young team for the Spartans. Very young team. Going to rely heavily on some juniors, and one of those, Tyler Streeter, junior attack, St. Bonaventure commit.
Yes.
Olean, New York. The stat that jumps out to me is that only one underclassman in the league last year produced more points than Tyler Streeter's 58, and that was Teddy Frizzoli, who needs no introduction.
It's good company to be with.
Yeah.
Where's he from again? I forget.
I played youth lacrosse with his brother, and he would just score on defense when he was close, like all the time. And I was like, I'm in the wrong league right now. I got to hop off the field.
I got to go home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously a lot more about Teddy Frizzoli later in the podcast. Sure. But, talking about Lawrence, it's a team that's very young. It's got some talented players. It's, maybe a little thinner than some of the teams that they'll be up against. So it'll be interesting to see what they can do.
Yeah, and Sam Cleveland, friend of the pod, he I've talked to him a couple times about Lawrence, and his thing is like he brings in a lot of kids that play other sports, and he gets a lot of hockey kids. So they maybe don't start as strong as some other teams, but as soon as those hockey kids get the as we call them, the land legs underneath them, as anyone that coaches hockey kids know, why can't you run?
Yeah, run like a hockey kid. It's a common expression.
Why can you not run right now? It's like 2 weeks later and like, oh, we remember how to run. I think that's something to look at. Cody Philpott's a really good goalie.
Yep.
So at least they have that. I think if you're going to win games in the ISL, and you're trying to get positions, you need a face-up guy, you need a goalie, you need a scorer and a stopper. It's kind of like every other league, right? But if you have the goalie and the face-off guy, you're ahead of the game a little bit. Everything else kind of comes with the flow of recruiting and building teams.
Yep, that's the frame of success. A lot of teams in this league have that. Not every team has that.
Right.
So moving on, let's take a look at a team that did take a step forward last year, which was St. George's. They got the totals up to 3 league wins and 6 overall wins. They are bringing back a good amount of defense, and they graduated quite a bit of offense, including Nick Barnes, who was their top attacker last year. So Hayden Calkins is one player. He's a senior. He's going to Union. 26 goals, 46 points last year for St. George's. He'll be the focal point of that attack.
Yeah, for sure. This is one of those teams where, like, I don't know as much about St. George's as some of the other squads, just because they're the Rhode Island team, right? Like, but I went there for a tournament, Empire 8, like 2 years ago, and it's like the most beautiful campus I've ever seen.
Absolutely.
Insane.
There's 2 turf fields on either side, and the buildings are all around the turf fields. So, like, conceivably, everyone that lives there could be just watching you play lacrosse. It's really cool. Like, I'll give them that. And this is a team that I remember their big win. They beat Holderness like 3 years ago. And I was like, wait, what? Yep. And everyone went. It wasn't just me. I was like, wait, what? And that's because they were taken lightly a little bit. And I think you can't take St. George's lightly. Like, they are building their own little thing down there. So, it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
It's an outside shot at the big tournament, right? If they win the games that they would appear to be on paper favored to win and steal one or two, by the end of the year, you never know. You might have that 6-5 record that can often get you into that big tournament.
100%.
St. Mark's is another team that's trending upward. Under Coach Craig Ferraro, they have gone from 1 win to 2 wins to 5 wins in his 3 seasons. And a guy you saw over the summer quite a bit, I've spotlighted here. It's Finn Frederick, face-off junior.
Yes, very good. I think one of the games I saw him go against a guy who I was like, oh, this is one of the top guys in the class. And not only did he hold his own, he won some stuff real clean. Like, there are face-off guys, and then there are face-off guys that win. They find ways to win. And then there's guys that just win clean. Like, Frederick wins clean. And, he wins it to himself. He wins it to the side. He can push. He can retreat, get it back to a goalie, set up a clear. Like, he's very fundamentally sound. And, he's a junior. I would not be surprised if he was also off the board early once we start playing summer ball.
Yeah, I mean, took 375 face-offs as a sophomore and won 57%.
Yeah,
as a sophomore, that's a heck of a number.
It's incredible considering the face-off guys that are in the ISL. Yeah.
So that concludes the first tier of ISL teams that we're looking at, and of course, reminding everyone that we will flesh out and expand these previews in the weeks ahead on laxjournal.com as we head into the new season, which is not that far away. But now we have 11 teams left, and we're going to count them down. Preseason rankings, 11 all the way to 1. And then I imagine we'll make some predictions.
Yeah, I think that sounds good. Number 11.
Number 11, Groton School, coming off a 6-9 season. A lot of defense back on this team.
Yes. Bob Lowe loves defense.
Yeah.
He does. He loves his defense. Every time I see him like post or talk about something, he's just like, oh, have you seen this poll? I'll see him at events occasionally. Like, he's not a guy that hides. Pretty easy to find. You know what I mean? Like, not that there are like coaches that are like, oh, I don't want to talk to you, or they kind of slink away. There are guys that are just, you hear them, you hear them.
I mean, guys like, Angus Miller going to Brown, Matt Scheibel going to Dartmouth, Macon Burgess. They have defended players. You're going to see those 7-5 scores, throughout the season. Hey, Groton.
I think the thing that I look at for them is like, what's the offense going to do?
Yeah.
That's really, we're not going to say that about a lot of these teams, but I think we're going to say it about the next 2 in particular, including this one. Like, what is this attack going to do? What is this midfield going to do? Can they score more than 10 goals a game? Because I think that's kind of, I know that's like a low bar for everyone to be like, oh, well, that's how you win. You just score more than, whoever reaches 10 first wins a game. Mm-hmm. It's like an old lacrosse adage. I don't think it's way less true because they play with a shot clock. In the age of the shot clock, that's not true, right? But it's a common adage used across the sport to describe a winning path.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Next up
at number 10 is Rivers, coming off a 9-7 season. And you talked about specialists and how you go into seasons, needing those specialists. You look at senior goalie Marcos Ramos, 4-year starter.
Yep.
Zach Musi, face-offs. There's your 2 specialists. That's a nice foundation to build a team around.
Yeah, Musi's great. I think teams are going to try and get the ball away from him more. I watched him play for 3D this summer, and he's great. Like, he wins, and he stands up. Like, there are face-off guys that kind of like, they're slinky or whatever. They try to like play that little game. He's like, I'm up, I'm going. Like, he's very linear in how he does everything, and I think that works. And the thing that the way it works for Rivers is Rivers has so many poles they can handle, and they do run. Matt Hudson's a 3D guy. They run a 3D system, right? Like, they know what they're doing on defense and offense. I think with this team in particular, again, we were talking about guys that need to score. Like, it can't just be Chad Bartlett, right? Like, it can't just be one guy doing everything for them. I think they did graduate. They lost some guys, but, Jack Rabazi's incredible. I mean, Luke Morin is incredible. I love Luke. Why, Luke Morin? Why are you not recruited? You are nasty. I love Luke Morin. Like, I'm not going to say that about every single guy that I like on a team, but, like, I've watched him play, and he's just so mean. I love mean defenders. Like, just like, I saw him. It was a winter showcase for Massachusetts, and a kid curled out, and the kid saw him coming, and he still stopped, and he was trying to pass, and Morin's like, no. The ball went over him, and he still finished his check, and I thought the kid, like, broke his arm. He just fell to the ground. I was like, that's a defender. All right. Let's get that. Yeah. So I would also expect, I mean, it feels like I'm saying that about every single team, but there is a guy on every one of these teams that is on someone's board that's either Division I or high-level Division III. That's just what the ISL is.
So, we have Rivers clocking in preseason number 10, but there's certainly upward mobility there. I don't think there's any question about that.
Yeah, we didn't argue too much about these rankings. I wanted Rivers a little higher, but I get why they are where they are, for sure.
Yep. All right, so number 9, we have Roxbury Latin, which is coming off that great season where it finished 5th, beat Milton in the quarterfinals, made the semis, gave Belmont Hill a run, and graduated a good amount. So, yeah, they're certainly not as full a team as it had last year, but Johnny Price, senior midfielder going to Georgetown, it starts there, and he's a heck of a player.
Super dynamic, can dodge, can feed, can shoot. Like, one of these guys that you really can build around to have an offense around. Like, he's going to touch the ball every single time they're in a 6. It's not like, he'll come down and pass out, or he'll do something like that. Like, he's either coming off the bench and getting the first touch, even if it's at the other side of the field. Like, they know you need to get, the coach is probably screaming, get the ball to Price to make things happen. That's good and bad, right? Like, that can really kind of put more spotlight on you, but, there are certain players where, like, it literally doesn't matter. Right, like he's just so good that he can make something happen regardless of who's on him as the best pole or a guy. Sometimes teams bump up to play him with a defenseman that's fast.
Another senior on that team, Taylor Cotton, going to Trinity. He and Price combined for roughly 100 points last year. They'll need to get some help. If they get the help, another upwardly mobile ISL team.
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we look at, and when we're not necessarily ranking these teams, but we are ranking them now, but we're looking at the finish of last year as much as we are the middle of the season. Because I think sometimes when everybody does this, like when they do a preview, they lean real hard in the last couple games. It's like, what have you done for me lately? And I don't want to do that with RL. I think RL's good in their own way. But I think there's some other teams coming up here where we're going to do that a little bit more, and that's okay. But I think Roxbury's like body of work from last year carrying over is very impressive.
Okay.
So I like to shout that out. It's not just playoff run. It's like that the team really clicked.
We are now moving into the projected top half of our rankings heading into the season, and we start at Tabor. Another O'Neill. Not to put the focus on him because he's a freshman, but there's another O'Neill.
Seriously?
Just keep spawning them.
Landon O'Neill.
They're all going to go to Richmond. They're all going to score 50 points.
3 for 3 so far. Great. Don't forget Mavis on the girls' side.
Oh, my God.
Player there, too. But, yes. So he's a freshman. Connor Gorman expecting some things from him. It's actually a team with some younger siblings. Leo Cavey.
Yep.
Is a Loyola commit. Obviously, we remember Mitch.
Yep. Mitch, who also went to Loyola, I believe. I think he's there.
I think he's PG in a year.
Did he PG?
I think he's a PG now, if I'm not mistaken. And
okay.
I mean, they're check that, but
honestly, they're brothers. They look the same. They play the same.
Yeah.
Like they're little fireball kids. They're like both under 5. They're like 5'5". And I know that because I stand next to them and I'm still taller than them, which doesn't happen for any other player. So that's the only reason I remember that. But they play so hard. That's what the thing Tabor has, and this is Tabor's biggest advantage. These dudes run through a wall. They like, I think when Gorman came in, I was skeptical because he's a younger coach and he's a goalie. And that's just my bias against goalies. That's me. That's a me thing. But he is a younger coach, and when you're a younger coach, I mean, you're a younger coach, you can get kids, it either backfires where like they don't kind of see that, or they really get galvanized by like your energy and what you can give them. And I think he has done that. Another guy that we want to spotlight here. My favorite player on Tabor is Garrett Salite.
Yep.
Garrett Salite is like Union scooped him. Union scooped him. I was on the sideline watching them play in a tournament, and I saw the Union coach, and he's just sitting there like this, eyes wide, like watching him like, whoa, like little hearts coming out of his eyes. Sorry, coach, don't get mad at me. But he really liked him, and he played in a couple. Didn't he play in the All-Star?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he's so good. He can be, probably in college, he projects as an SSDM. And he does that a little bit for Tabor, but he's really more of a pure transition guy, and he can score. So he's so versatile, and he's so athletic. And I hate using the term athletic. It's such a catch-all term, but it's true when you can play multiple positions. Like when you can play multiple positions and fill in for anyone on the field, except maybe the goalie or the face-off guy, that's a dynamism you can't really quantify. And I think Union stole him. I want to be clear. I think they stole this dude. He's a star. I love him. And he's not the kind of guy that's going to show up in that stat book, right? Like, again, we've been doing these senior spotlights on laxjournal.com, and I'm trying really hard to make amends with the SSDMs, and I'm picking out guys that I really like, right? And I've tried to get an SSDM in almost every region that I've written about, and if I was going to do it for ISL, it would be Garrett Salite.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of good stuff going on for Tabor. 5 of 6 starting defenders back, so there's certainly a foundation there. Number 7 is Milton. Milton coming off another strong year last year, finishing in the top 4, which I'm not sure any of us saw coming in the preseason.
No.
It did graduate, a pretty robust class. They don't have a lot of seniors. They do have Natty Mason, senior attack, going to Georgetown.
Yep, very good. Very, very dogged, like a guy who gets to the middle well. And I everybody loves players like that, right? Like, I think Georgetown, as they say, ate with this class in ISL. They really did. Like, they came in and were like, that guy, that guy, that guy, that guy. Like, they're doing really well picking up prep guys in the region, not just here. I mean, they also, they've got guys from the Lakes region that are very good too. So with Milton, I think they're going to miss Will LaValle a lot.
Yep.
They're going to miss Silas Hamblett a lot.
There you go.
But, Goodrich knows what he's doing. Like, they play a very smart system. They play kind of the throwback Hopkins system, because that's where Goodrich went, right? Like, they play they play the control game. They play over-the-top balls. They can get through people. And again, with a guy like Natty Mason, who can get to the middle off a catch and go, that's going to get you easy points, right? Like, sometimes winning teams aren't just all about dominating the entire time, right? Like, and we'll get to the teams that are very dominant in this league, but I don't think you count Milton as a dominant team, but they're a possession-heavy team, even with the shot clock. And I think that's important, because, like, the thing about Mason is, like, he just get a shot off wherever he wants. Ian Brown's a creator. Ian Smith, who's going to Brown. Yep. Is a creative player. I think he's coming off an injury. But that's a team that, 7 is good. I think we're maybe high, but that's okay. That's probably what other coaches thought too, right? Like, we underestimated them last year. Shouldn't have done that.
No.
And when you have a coach that's as organized as Goodrich is, that's part of what goes into this.
Yeah, and finding if they can find the specialists to plug in and replace those two guys who are now both in the NESCAC and did a heck of a job for them.
Right.
This is a team could live up to that ranking.
100%.
We move up to number 6 and Thayer, a team that was, just looking at the results, all over the map last year.
Too big to fail, though.
They're just one-sided losses, big wins, gave Belmont Hill everything it could ask for in the quarterfinals of the ISL tournament.
Yep.
But when all was said and done, it was an 8th place team.
I don't get this team. This is my I don't get it team. And I don't get it because, like, Teddy Lally is, like, you're shaking your head.
I saw him play this summer, and I was like, he's the best kid on the field. What is going on?
You texted me.
Yeah. I don't understand. And then we spoke before the podcast. I was like, I expected Thayer to be in that up for 4, get a home playoff game, and then it's perplexing. I'm not trying to. I said this to you. I don't know if you read the message. Last year, a certain team maybe clipped something from this podcast and used it in the pregame warm-ups. I'm trying not to stay too hot on the mic. I'm not going to say what team that was, but somebody might have clipped one of your rankings from this podcast and put it in their opening intro. So
that's what we're here for.
Be careful.
I couldn't believe that when you told me that, but then I was like, oh wait, of course they would.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they?
But back to Thayer, sorry.
But here's the thing with BD. It's really just his second year. He's trying to get the guys in there that are in the right positions. And listen, the problem that happens when you have this many good players is, where do I fit all these dudes? Where do I fit all of them in? Right? And
I mean, you look at commits on this roster. It's like, what do you do?
Honestly, it's an embarrassment of riches. I don't get it, man. It's an embarrassment of riches. It really is. And I don't say that to say that it's impossible for them to win. I think that it's more difficult to find spots for guys that are, I'm going D1. I'm set. I'm good. How many guys are committed to Army on this roster? 1, 2, 3. I mean, it's wild.
It's a regiment.
I mean, hopefully they're all in the same platoon and we all eat together, like, well, but that's awesome. Do you know what I mean? Like, they play different positions, but they're all kind of together now in that as well. I really think the performance of this team hinges on their ability to be consistent in scoring.
Yeah, consistency. That's the number one thing.
It's just not there.
Yep.
Right? Like, the Moore twins are so good.
Yep.
But you have to integrate them with the other midi and the 3 attackmen. Right. So how are you going to do that? I mean, they have a good face-off guy. Garlong came a long way. I remember last year when we talked to Bill Day, who was a goalie and goalie coach, and was like, yeah, Gar's coming along. And usually when I'm like, I'm going to read that. I don't think that was a good thing, but I was wrong. Like, he's going to be you. Like, he backstopped that team, and he's a different kind of goalie where he's a save-first goalie, right? This team, I think, needs to be more consistent in the 6 and in transition. A couple games I saw them play Sebs last year, and I was like, what is happening? It was turnover city.
Yep.
And not just them. It was Sebs too. Like, it was probably the messiest game I saw all year. Just a complete balls on the ground the entire time, right? And I'm kind of just like, this is ISL team? What are you doing? But they, in the end, this is a team that has all the potential to get in the playoffs and make noise, right? Like, we've seen all these other teams have the upsets. Tabor, right? Roxbury Latin. This might be Thayer's year to be that team if they can get the cohesiveness they need to succeed and be consistent on both sides of the ball.
Consistency. That's what it comes to.
100%.
So I say, go top shelf, upper 90s, right under the crossbar. Any questions?
Professor, the NCAA Lacrosse Championships are coming to Boston. Are we ready?
You prepared to get loud, face paint up, bring boom boom to Beantown? Oh, you're ready. The NCAA D1, D2, and D3 men's and D1 women's lacrosse championships, May 23rd through the 26th in Boston. Buy your seats today at ncaa.com/tickets.
Are you serious about playing your sport in college? Do you need a flexible education that allows you to maintain your practice and competition schedules while also preparing you to succeed at the next level? You should check out the University of Nebraska High School. UNHS is accredited and offers more than 100 online courses, including NCAA-approved courses to protect your academic eligibility. Students could earn a UNHS diploma or take a single course for transfer credit. Courses are college prep, self-paced, and available 24/7, 365. Enroll anytime and take up to a year to complete a course. Visit highschool.nebraska.edu today.
Hi, I'm Jamie Marcoux, AVP for Athletics at LaSalle University. We're proud to offer 15 NCAA Division III varsity sports teams. And last year, all of our varsity teams advanced to the conference playoffs. Our student athletes excel both on the field and in the classroom. LaSalle offers over 60 majors and minors and is located just 8 miles from Boston. With one of the most affordable private educations and housing ranked #1 in Massachusetts by Niche, we're committed to providing an exceptional college experience. Visit lasalle.edu to learn more.
So that concludes the second tier of our preview. We're now down to 5 teams remaining that we're going to kind of lump into that top tier, at least in the preseason, and then let the games and results play out, and we'll see how accurate we are. So at number 5, a team that has made some playoff noise over the years, not last year, but certainly the previous 2 years, and that's Governors.
Yep, got to the championship game both those years before. I love Brock Karachi.
Go Heels.
Yeah. Well, so that's an interesting story. So I did a story on Govs for the cover last year preseason.
I remember that. Yep.
And I found out that he was switching his commitment. And I was like, I can't announce this. Because, like, this is the weird thing about being a lacrosse, like, journalist, writer, or whatever. You learn stuff that you're not supposed to know all the time. And people tell you stuff you're not supposed to know all the time. And if you put something out before you're supposed to, someone hates you that you don't even know. It's just going to come back at you, right? So I'm interviewing him, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm going to North Carolina. And I was like, what? So I think he was going to Georgetown before, and he changed his commitment. And I was like, can I change that in the story? He's like, when's the story go up? I was like, I don't know, a couple weeks. He's like, probably. And I was like, what are you waiting? He's like,
we were counting down the days on that. I remember that.
I'm like, what are you waiting on? He's like, well, I don't know if I should say what he was waiting on, but I will. He's like, oh, well, my club team wants to make an edit. And I'm like, I think if it was a FaceTime, I would have just been like this. Like, come on, dude, really? But I get it. Like, that's what these kids work for.
Yep.
And when you make an announcement like that, and it's a big deal, like, I understand that. Is he the best player in the ISL, or is it my next favorite on the next team we're going to talk about? Right now it's a tie, right? Like, it's Karachi.
I was going to ask you, but I'll wait till we
you
get to
know
that team.
who it is.
Yeah,
everyone knows who it is because
I'll wait.
everyone's like, Kyle, put your man crush away. It's a little much.
Talking about Govs, SSDM, Trip to Herwick, if I'm saying that right. When I watched him play last year, and wrote a story. He is the do-it-all guy. He'll pick up ground ball. He'll run 40 yards, score. He can do it. He can do it all, and especially in the shot clock formation in the clearing game. He's going to be key for them. Get across the half line, steal possessions. I'm looking forward to see what he adds to the Govs.
Coming over from BC High. He was a great player there. Yeah, it's offensively, this team is loaded. I mean, Garachi, 99 points, led the ISL last year. Yep. He's got weapons around him. Defensive depth, number one concern identified by Coach Tucker Sampson.
Yeah, and, they will find a way with that. I think they're trying to get a little action. I mean, they have John King in the goal, but he's not Andrew Elmquist. It's tough to replace a guy like that. I think this is a team that is very well positioned to run on teams and to run through them and over them, a lot of teams in the ISL. My question is, can they do that to the top 4? And I don't know, which is probably why they're 5, right?
Yep. Sounds right. All right, we're moving up to number 4. The only new coach in the ISL this season, Brian Powers.
Yes,
okay?
Powers.
Brian Powers. All mistakes by yours truly have been cleaned up online, Brian. I apologize for that. Kyle set me straight when he saw me this morning. So Coach Brian Powers takes over a Middlesex team that advanced to the ISL championship game a year ago, graduates some players, has some players back, none bigger, senior Owen Cran.
Owen set a timer for 2 minutes.
Gotcha.
Go.
Listen, this kid's sick. Like, it's just so good. And he's so good in so many ways. Like, he can play attack. He can play midfield. When they're in trouble, Middlesex just goes, Owen, go do something. And he does something that totally affects the game. He can go get a ground ball. He can smash through 2 guys and pick it up. He can set up on the face-off wing, win that GB, get back, get a trail check, get the ball back, start a fast break, finish the fast break. Get back on the line and do it again. That's the kind of player this is. When he originally committed to Penn, and then when he switched to Virginia, I think someone texted me, they're like, oh, did you see the switch to Virginia? I was like, yeah. That makes a lot of sense. You're a UNC fan and everything, but he's an ACC player, man. He just is. He's going to step into Virginia and be a guy that they have to play eventually. The thing about him is that it's not his physicality. It's his game IQ, speed, and ability with and without the ball to impact everything around him. Yep. I believe that's my 2. I will cede the floor.
You had a little bit. My coach was going to ask you if there was a fantasy draft of the ISLs here, 1-1.
Dude, it's like I would pick. I'll tell you what.
Saying you can't pick individual defense because fantasy defense is a unit. No.
Yeah, we'll pick a defensive unit and it will be Bell Hill every time.
Yeah.
Or maybe subs this year. I would pick Cran, Garachi, Preston Evans, probably.
Throw Lally up there too. I love Lally.
Yes.
Anyway.
Listen, there's a lot of guys you could pick. There's a lot of guys that are the ISL is. I wouldn't say it's an offensive league. I wouldn't, because there are if you were to break up the way goals are scored in the ISL versus the MIA, for example. Let's just put an example.
Go for it.
I'm not gonna.
No, go ahead.
Do not put the hat away. Put the sweatshirt away. Think about this point. The amount of goals scored in the ISL from broken stuff, broken plays, broken defenses, is way lower.
Absolutely.
Than the MA.
You call them replicable goals.
I mean,
more in the ISL.
Sure. I would say that also 2-3 pass goals are way more prevalent in the ISL. But I don't think what's interesting is the athleticism is so high that they do kill the transition better. Like ISL, good ISL teams, these top teams we're talking about right now, they kill transition like a college team. Like that's the one thing about the ISL is like if you are out there causing turnovers, feeling good on the ride, and we're going to get nope, good luck, ain't gonna happen. Like there's too many fast, skilled poles, too many athletes on SSDM to let that happen easily. The other teams, that's you're going to get those goals. But I think we're talking top echelon of ISL. It's some of the best lacrosse in all of preps, like period. Okay. It really is.
So a couple more notes just before we leave Middlesex. A good senior class around Cran. A couple good goalies, both going D3. They've performed well, and a junior defender heading to UMass that you mentioned today. That's Emmett Goodrich.
Goodrich got left on an island in the championship game, and I think this year they will not make that mistake again, especially with Powers as the coach. I think that's kind of his specialty is defense, right?
Same hometown.
Yeah, I think that he's
Winchester blood.
Oh, the Winchester boys love hitting people, so
yes,
that makes
do.
sense. I think that he's going to kind of not shore that up, but he's not going to be set. I mean, he was trying so hard in that game. Like I'm watching that game and it's like, I don't know, what was it, like 12 something and like single digits. I'm like, oh no, this guy's still sliding out, still breaking down for his approaches. Like I'm happy he went to UMass. I think he is a D1 talent, and I think that's a good landing place for him. But he's going to he needs more help. I'm just going to say that he needs more help, and he'll get it in Powers' system. I mean, Powers ran a pretty tight ship at the Catholics, right?
Yeah. And he also brought that team. They were kind of like the fourth child in that conference, and then his last year just coaching matters.
And it was defense.
Yes.
Like that's the main point. So, people might say, why do you have Middlesex over Thayer and Govs? And I would say back to them, it's Brian Powers. Because he's been set to take over this team for what? Since the beginning of
the season.
Yeah.
Like beginning of last season. Like he knew it was the last year.
At
then.
CM,
So, I think it's definitely, I think they deserve the 4 ranking. I really do. Yep. And I'll back it.
It's a good transition. He's just the third coach in how many years at that program, going back to Ned Herder and Doug Worthen. It's got 40-something maybe.
Isn't it wild when you see that on like a team? Like I saw, what was that? What team? I was looking at a team and that was the 4th head coach ever.
It's like the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was like, what? What are we doing? No. How's that possible?
So continuity at Middlesex, and that's why they check in at number 4. Number 3. We go with Nobles, two-time champion in 2022 and 2023. Yep. Fell off a bit last year, finished just 9-9, but man, they have got some attackmen and they've got some diverse attackmen.
Yeah, when Will Chiasson,
that's probably it.
Chasson. When he went to Trinity, I was surprised. I thought he was getting looks from some other D1s and some other NESCACs. And, we talked earlier about like Georgetown being a team that's really coming in the ISL. So's Trinity, so's Union. Those are like two of the teams where I'm like, oh, Union, RPI's coming in for a lot of these guys. Liberty League is kind of that spot. The guy I want to talk about the most on this list, I think it's probably a tie between James Strick and Max Mink, which weird. I think that rhymes. But Strick is incredible because he's big. He gets his shot off and he doesn't know the limit of his range. And I mean that in the best way. I mean that in a great way. Dude, he does not know the limit of his range. Like, will pull up. This is a dude, if he played pickup hoops, he's the guy that's transition threes. He's a 3-and-D. In lacrosse, I think, if Nobles can manufacture a lot of chances for him, he's going to do great. I think Max Mink's a consummate scorer, setup guy. Like, again, one of these are the teams that, these top 3, top 4 teams that just know how to score and have a system that's proven for scoring, right? Like, I'm not saying it's plug and play for everybody. There's obviously adjustments all the time. But listen, Matt Rowley knows how to put up an offense. He knows how to make an offense. He knows how to create things for his players. And, you'll never find a more fierce defender of his team than Matt Rowley. And I mean that in the best and not always worst way. But I'll occasionally, like you said, this might have been the team that clipped our rank.
I didn't say it.
You didn't say it. Might have been the team that clipped us talking about them, but I'm going to say great things about them, and I dare you to do it again. You're third. How about that?
So good players. I mean, throughout the lineup, they have a goalie in Ethan Train. They're in good shape there. They're going to break in a new face-off guy after Christian Grasso.
Yes.
Had a great year for him last season. So, they're solid pretty much throughout the lineup. A couple holes to plug in. Midfield depth, one early concern, but I would not be surprised if they are there at the end.
Yeah. We didn't talk about Taco Bain, who's probably there.
Yeah.
their best player. He's really good. Again, you go through this list, and if you read our previews, you'll see like positions next to each guy. Nobles plays positionless. Yep. Like you can't, like, that's why there's 7 attackmen on this on this list. Like, they'll just run out of the box and play offense and get off. Like, and they're organized well enough in their ride to make that work. There are not that many teams in high school period that can make that work. It's like Nobles, Lawrenceville, some NE West teams. Loomis is one of them. Like, some of these teams are so well organized that like you can run triple pull face-offs and they'll be fine. You know what I mean? Like the more difficult endeavors, the college level stuff that you do out of the box and going in for settled stuff, transition, stuffing transition. Like, Nobles is very good at all of those things.
Okay. So we're down to 2 teams left, and these are the 2 that, in just talking to coaches and talking to you, Kyle, head into the season maybe kind of a head above everyone else. They're very talented, tons of college commits, track records of winning. So we'll start with number 2. Could have been 1A, 1B, but it checks in at number 2. Yep. We went with St. Sebastian's at number 2.
Yeah. Where do we start with Sebs, man? I don't. Where do we start? Frisoli. I mean, we kind of have to. He was our cover story in the fall, I believe, the fall issue of this year when he committed to Duke. Right?
Was it the winter issue?
Was it winter?
It was the fall.
It was
the fall. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was interesting. Like, he's the last in a long line of Frisolis. I remember. Coach Adam White's like, he gave me some great quotes. He's like, maybe don't use all those. They're a little too colorful. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to pick out the one that I really like. And he's like, it's that one, isn't it? I was like, oh, yeah, it is. He described one of the Frisoli brothers as Ron Burgundy, that reading off the teleprompter, that if you told him to do something, he'd do exactly that. And he'd be very good at it, but then you had to tell him to do different things, right? Like, which is great. Like, that's a great description of like a kid's personality. I love that. That was amazing. That's fine. Like, you're not hurting the kid's feelings. Like, he's killing it at Tufts. He's fine. I think with this team, we're talking about offense, defense. We're talking about offense a lot. We gotta talk about this defense, man. Like, are you joking? Like, Brian Burke is a Jerry Byrne defenseman, and I mean.
Damn it! Who typed a question mark on the teleprompter? For the last time, anything you put on that prompter, Burgundy will read.
His defense is great. it's from Teddy McKee, Devin McGuire, like all these dudes. It's a mean group of guys, and they're all able to handle the ball and spark transition. And that's what makes Sebs more dangerous this year than last year, where not all these guys, they were playing, but they weren't all starting at the same time together in the way that they're doing it this year, or the way that they have to do it this year. This junior class is insane. It's insane. It's insane. I mean, Ty Curry was like the fifth or sixth guy, and he's going to Notre Dame. Like, what? I mean, for those of you that are listening at home, the way kind of the recruiting season works is September 1st, a lot of kids get the calls. They're allowed to get calls their junior year. So that's when we're kind of on high alert. The first week, there were 4 Sebs kids committed. The second week, it was 6 or 7. It's wild, right?
Insane.
And it's a testament not only to their production at Sebs for Coach White, but also what they did in the summer. I mean, it's. I watch these guys play, and I'm just like, where is this guy going? Oh my God! I don't know if I would have predicted ACC for everyone that went ACC, but Brian Burke went, and I was like, yeah, you better not let Jerry Byrne get that guy, and then he did. So that's good. I think, for Foley going to Duke is interesting. First of all, everyone knew it was going to happen. Everyone was talking about it before it. Like, I remember when September 1st happened, I got a text and I was like, when's Foley going to Duke? And I was like, I don't know. Like, you should text him. And then he committed, I think, we were doing the story and I talked to Adam and he's like, just so you know, Foley committed today. He's like, but you can't say anything. That's kind of what we're doing, right? Like, that's the game we're playing. But he's already done it. He's committed. Look at this. Sometimes we do these, and I'm just like, look at this level of commits. And you make the mistake of all these kids are going D1. Everybody's going to be great. And the thing you don't take into account is the coaching, right? Mm-hmm. The thing that I would say that Adam White and Tim Sullivan are very different coaches with similar goals. And I think the thing that White does is White is he coaches, I don't want to say this is a good or bad thing, but he coaches like we coach, where we're developing kids as we're coaching. Yeah. And I think Sullivan, he sees these kids from when they're and sorry, we're jumping ahead a little bit to Bell Hill being one. You knew who it was. Yeah, if you can count, you knew who was number one. You knew who it was. Yep. So I don't want to compare the teams till we get there, but I do want to compare the coaches because I think the thing that separates them is White is very good at developing and being kind of a personable guy with his players. He's kind of the guy that the players look to. He's in the school, he's teaching English, he's there all the time. Yep. Sullivan is not that he's a drill sergeant, I don't think he's that, but I think he's got the gravitas of a guy who's had that job for a long time and is building something in an image that he wants, right? Whereas White is developing his guys to be the best that they can and then bringing them together. Sullivan does it in reverse, right? Both of them are viable ways to coach. I'm not saying one's better than the other. I relate to one more than the other. It doesn't mean anything, right? I think that these two teams are on a collision course for the ISL championship. And I think the thing that we have to talk about is Sebs getting over the hump to get there.
Well, I think that's the question. Why does Sebs check in at number 2 when they've got the most college committed players, the most Division I committed players, excellent shape at the specialty positions, Chandler McClements in goal going to Penn, David Hom, face-offs. Yep. There's just no weaknesses. Now, this is the 4th year of the ISL championship tournament era. Yes. And we remember before that we had the pandemic, but before that, Sebs was the program in the league. I mean, they won, I want to say 2 out of the 3 titles or something
Undefeated
like that.
season in 19, I think.
Just great teams.
Yes.
So the question is why are we picking them number 2 is because in this era, they haven't done it the way that Belmont Hill finally did it last year. Mm-hmm. That semifinals has been the stumbling block. Freely admitted, Adam White mentioned it in the preview, need to get over that semifinal stumbling block. So until they do, our number 1 is going to be different in the preseason.
We'll get to picks, but let's go to Bell Hill. 17-1, won the ISL championship. I mean, what else can you say about this team? I think it's, again, this team is built like a robot. A destructive, evil robot, right? Like, they don't have their biggest weapon anymore, which is Peyton Fox. He's gone. But it doesn't matter. These guys play so insanely hard on every possession, especially on defense. And, if you're looking, and we were just talking about Seb's defense, that's kind of the things that make them 1 and 2, I think. Because these are the two defenses that can stop anyone, including each other. And I think that's what's interesting about this season is the prophesized finish going to be Bell Hill Sebs in this titanic battle? Or is a team like Middlesex did last year coming out of nowhere? Is it going to be Govs? Like, the cool thing with the ISL is there really is, yes, there's a lot of talent, and you can judge the teams by talent, but there's history, systems, and coaching that go into where teams are ranked. It's not just like, these guys have the most commits, they're number one. That we clearly didn't do that, right? Yep. Like, that's kind of something that you have to look at when you're ranking teams, and there will be people outside of New England that maybe don't see these teams as much, and they'll go, oh, well, Bell Hill is like easy number one. It's like, it's not that easy, but like 17-1 last year makes you pretty easy to pick as the number one. And I think that the way they get there, again, it's regimented, structured, ready. This is a team that is constantly prepared, and that's why they're good. You could have 4 or 5 less commits here, and I'd be like, they're probably still number one. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's what I mean by coaching styles, coaching setups, tradition. All those things really do go into a team, regardless of prep or public. Those are huge factors in whether you win, if you're from a culture of winning, or you're just starting to win and becoming a winner, right? Sebs and Bell Hill, they've won for a long time.
So there's some defensive losses. Graduation, Finn Fox being the biggest one. He was the ISL Player of the Year last year.
Yes.
But plenty back on offense. Preston Evans is a name you mentioned earlier in the podcast. 29 goals, 34 assists. He's kind of the focal point of that attack.
Yeah, I mean, he could play midfield. I think when he goes to college, he'll play midfield. Sorry if anyone thinks otherwise. Like his dad, who was a good star attackman at Brown. But he's so long, and the way that he moves is so languid that he can kind of step around people. And I think that's what at Bell Hill, he does a lot of catch and come around and shoot. I think, if he can get more top down looks, and they can kind of do some dirty switches there on the corner and kind of get that big little maybe on the side and do some wing offense, that is going to go a long way. They also have, Dylan Castillo is going to Virginia. Like, they have guys that can affect any defense, and they get matchups. That's the thing, again, about Bell Hill. They play matchups. They have weapons all over the field. They deploy the weapons. It's not like, hey, I think this guy will guard this guy. Don't worry. No. You are in this switch. You do not switch off this guy. This is your guy. If they set 4 picks on you, you run past 3. That's kind of the regimented thing I'm talking about. I think, they've got short stick D minis going D1. They've got guys going to the NESCAC. Again, Evans is great. I think, Teddy Stonestreet is also very good. This is a team that is ready to repeat. Are they ready to contend with losing their best defensive deployment? Because that people will say, like, oh, one defender,
but that's a big loss.
Dude,
yeah,
dude, he was not one dude. He was 3 guys. You could throw. I watched the end of the game. I think it was Sebs, and they were coming back. It was a 1-goal game, 2-goal game, something like that. And all of a sudden, you're watching the frame, and Fox is on the ball, turnover, pass, attack turns it over. He's out of the frame, stops the break. Like, immediately stops I was like, where did he come from? How did he do that? Is that guy, who is that guy on this team? Defensively, I don't know. I'm sure it's somebody that I'm not considering. I think there are a lot of guys too that, again, not that there's a lot of attackmen on this team that also play midfield. Like, go ahead and list yourself as an attackman on your thing. We all know you play midfield. It's okay. I know you play attack for your club team. Okay? They all know who I'm talking about. I'm just talking to the camera. They all know who they are. I think this team, once they get their roles ready and they're going to be tested, if they can come out of those early tests, everyone's in trouble. Everyone's in trouble. And that's kind of the best thing I can say, right? Like, you're passing those early tests and then it's over. I really think that last year's win gave not just this team this program momentum that they had not known because the playoff losses.
No, they got knocked out in the first round, and they haven't been rolling through the playoffs. They've had some losses that they've had to lick their wounds and come back hungrier.
I think that's what he's mentioning. That's why last season was so important, to get over that stumbling block, and now they come into this season as defending champions. So basically, we've teed it up. 16 teams, 16 outlooks.
Yeah,
which we will continue to develop as the season plays out. It's a quick one.
Yeah, sometimes it's so fast. Like, it's faster than ours by like a month. Like, they do start a little earlier, but not much. This is the part that people clip and put on their warm-ups. Who are we picking for, let's go title game and then winner? Owen, you go first. You're the everyman.
I will go Sebs over Middlesex.
Sebs over Middlesex.
Whoa.
I'm gonna go that. I believe in Middlesex. I really like Brown Powers as a coach. Maybe the best player in the ISL is on their roster. Got a defensive unit. I think that they can get to a top 3 seed and maybe have home playoff games and make it to the championship game.
Was it my argument for Owen Cran being amazing that really?
I like Owen Cran a lot. You don't own Owen Cran fans.
About my takes on him are not unique. I understand. You're right. You're right.
I'm going with that to start us off.
Fair enough. Do you want me to go next, or you want to go?
I'll go. Yes, I've been kicking it around, and I know we've done this show in years past where there's been 5-6 teams that you could really kind of throw into the mix.
Yeah.
And in good conscience, I can't go beyond the top 2 this year. At least at this point. So my pick is going to be for Sebs to break through the semifinals and cap it off with a win over Belmont Hill in the final.
See, I'm of 2 minds here. I could go for the pick that will get me less emails and make me a little less hated. Or...
That's not on Kyle's brand.
That's right.
What's the end of your week look like next week?
What's
block out 4 hours?
What is Mike, I don't know if you know this. Monday is email day. Yeah. Monday is no. We just put all those emails to the side and we have our second cup of coffee before we tackle emails. First of all, I love that pick from Middlesex. Yeah. I love that for you.
I've liked them a lot.
I also love your pick. Because I love when people send me emails. I think it's Nobles and Sebs. There you go. And like Mike, I am picking Sebs.
Yep.
I just, like, again, it's too much. The coaching is too good. The curse, and again, we see a pattern of curses being broken.
Yeah.
We kind of got to get in on that. Like, people, well, you won't remember this. You're too young, but we're New England people. All we do is try to break curses generationally, right? That's kind of our sports thing in this region. I love the Nobles O versus the Sebs D.
Yeah,
I think that's
the best on best.
Big,
attractive.
That's some big brain coaching needs to happen there, and I am excited to watch it. I think it has to be the Nobles offense versus the Sebs defense. Yep. That's the star matchup to go with. And then I think that the X factor in that is on the other side for Sebs. It's Teddy Frisoli. Like, again, we did this cover story. You can go find it on laxjournal.com. It was for the fall magazine. And when he committed to Duke, and I asked him, I ask a lot of kids this when I interviewed them, a lot of players, young players this, especially after they commit. It's like, what do you think you need to do better? And a lot of kids are like, I don't know, like I got to develop my left hand or my offhand, or I got to get a little faster or something like that. Frisoli had like 6 things he wanted to get better at. I've never talked to a kid that age that's like very specific and honed in on what they need to do. And I'm not even going to tell you what they were. I remember what they were, but I'm not going to handicap him because he's like, the thing that I root for every time when we do previews, when we do write-ups, is good things for the kid, right? And people kind of sometimes misconstrue that as like, oh, you favor this or that. I favor all kids because I don't have an ISL team that I root for. I didn't go to one. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I went to Tilton. We're doing a Lakes Region preview. You think what's Tilton ranked in my Lakes Region?
Way too high.
They're the second to last. They're second to last, right? Like I went there.
Yeah.
I don't have that bias. And you know, as much as I push it out there to the world, I like to say it again, every once in a while publicly, like, I don't have any bias against your kid. If anything, I'm just for good lacrosse.
Yep.
And if you're looking for good lacrosse at any point, the ISL is your stop.
There you go.
Yep. So good. All right. I think that's going to do it for this episode of the Chasing a Goal podcast.
Let the games begin.
Yes. Yeah. Thanks again for listening. I'm Kyle Devitt. He's Owen Hart and Mike Zhe. See you next time.